Good evening. I believe that we are watching the fall of the American empire in real time. And if you'll bear with me, I'm going to go through the argument as quickly as I can and in a basic way, as only a random guy on the internet can do. And I'm going to be answering all the live streams. Good evening. Uh-oh. I believe that we are watching the fall of the American empire in real time. Sorry, I don't know if you guys could hear that, but you know, it wouldn't be a live broadcast if something weird didn't happen. All right, so we're live, and welcome everybody. I hope you're ready for a good one, because I think this is a big one. All right, so let's start with the petroleum or other liquids, right? Chart that I have on the screen. This is the weekly U.S. ending stocks of crude oil in the Strategic Petroleum Reserve. And this chart goes all the way back to, I'm not sure, I think this is when the SPR began, the Strategic Petroleum Reserve began, and that's when they started tracking it. You can see here that we're almost back to the low point, which was when the U.S. began the Strategic Petroleum Reserve. So the Strategic Petroleum Reserve is the oil that the U.S. holds strategically in vaults so that if something crazy happens in the world, the supply of oil, which fuels everything in our society, basically everything, we can still continue to use oil. Now, in order to deal with the fallout of the Iran war, the blockage of the Strait of Hormuz, which we've covered on this channel, and I'm not sure if you guys know, but it's obviously a really big deal. I don't know if you've heard, the Strait of Hormuz has been closed since the very first day of this war because Iran controls that strait. We went over the dynamics of the Strait of Hormuz and why it's impossible for the U.S. to control the Strait of Hormuz without a full ground invasion of Iran, which is not going to happen. And thankfully so, because a ground invasion of Iran will be an absolute disaster, as we will go over in a few minutes in some of the points that I've got ready for you guys. So the point is that the U.S., in order to lower oil prices and avoid an economic catastrophe, which I think is pretty much unavoidable at this point, has been depleting the Strategic Petroleum Reserve at a tremendous pace. And if we continue to do it at this rate, it will hit its bottom level, I think, in about January, depending on what happens. You know, obviously, nobody can predict exactly what's going to happen. But the point is that this is a lifeline being drawn out, one of many, right? We're going to go over several other ones. Oil, and the idea, I'll briefly address the counterpoint that people, who support the war foolishly will say, which is that the U.S. is energy independent. No, they're not. Okay, the U.S. is not energy independent. We import different types of oil, refined products from the Strait of Hormuz, and yes, we can replace them. But you have to understand, the U.S. has been the superpower. It's the empire. It's the U.S. dollar is everything in the world, right? It is the reserve currency of the world. And so the U.S. is deeply entrenched and involved in the world economy. And so if the price of oil were to suddenly spike to, say, $200, it would cause a great loss of confidence in the U.S. And I believe we're already seeing that loss of confidence. And it's happening on the geopolitical level and the military level, the level that's the easiest for all of these countries, including the U.S., to, explain away or obfuscate away. If you don't know what's going on in the war, you don't really know what's going on in the world. But it's become quite obvious that the U.S. is not going to win this war. And the constant dance, it's a joke to me. It's just absolutely ridiculous that we see Trump every single day, I think it's almost every day, come out with a different statement about the progress of negotiations, right? Negotiations are going well. Oh, Iran, he's already declared victory on this war. 100 times, 200 times. It's insane. It's insane. It's insane. And I mean, whatever your opinion of Trump was before the war, I think it was legitimate to have mixed opinions about Trump. I mean, the Epstein stuff notwithstanding, which has come out and been pretty obvious. But, putting that aside, okay, conspiracy theories, whatever, things you can prove. You can prove that Trump has been lying every single day about the negotiations with Iran. And it's about as bad a situation as I can imagine for the U.S. And it could get worse because there are the Houthi rebels aimed at the other strait that connects to the Suez Canal, which will be a story we'll be talking about here. I'm nerding out, guys. I've been immersed in this stuff, so I hope I haven't lost you. Put your question in the chat, and if you're watching the replay, I mean, it's complicated, but it's also not complicated, okay? The oil's running out, okay? You can see it in this chart. Whatever somebody wants to tell you, the U.S. is energy independent, it's not a problem, the Strait of Hormuz, whatever. This chart tells otherwise, okay? It's going straight down. That's the current situation, and Iran knows this is the situation, and they're very happy to force the U.S. to continue to draw down our oil reserves into the election. They only have to hold out until November. I mean, that's what, 3 months away? The election is in 3 months, the midterm election. And the way it's going, I mean, if anybody's paying attention, I think the Democrats are going to just destroy. They're going to destroy. They're going to take over the House and the Senate for sure. And I don't know to what degree. I mean, it might be very dramatic because this situation has made Trump look like an absolute idiot. And, he is an idiot, basically, for letting Israel get him into this war and, deciding to bomb Iran when all the strategic, you can say whether or not Iran should be attacked or shouldn't be attacked. It doesn't matter because you need to read Sun Tzu's Art of War. You don't enter a war that you don't know you're going to win. And they entered this war basically with no strategic planning, according to the public reports. But, I mean, to me, it just looks like they want to lose, or it's an operation to loot the last remnants of the American empire. That's what it is. It's the last looting of the U.S. empire that we're watching. Plain and simple. And you can see it in the insider trading. Like I said, every day Trump comes out. And as a trader myself, as an investor, I pay attention and I watch when, there are reports, and it was just connected to Jared Kushner, insider trading reports about the price of oil and the timing of Trump's comments. And I mean, it's all in your face at this point. The collapse, the moral bankruptcy, and that's what this is really about. The oil and the money, that is not the full story. The full story is the moral bankruptcy, and that's what we're going to get into a bit more. Oh, what word did I use? Thanks for joining, everybody. Looks like Eleanor, Hannah, and Ryan are with me. I think, okay, that's everybody. I'm just looking around at the information. Welcome, guys. Glad to have you with me. Tell me anything you think in the chat. Yeah, I understand, Hannah. I probably should be more careful than I plan on being in this live stream. I already feel like YouTube kind of treats me like crap anyway, so I'm not really expecting YouTube to push this one out too much, but we'll see. We'll see. TikTok is giving me a better shake. Maybe it's the young kids that aren't so swallowed with propaganda garbage that most people swallow. And so, they probably already turned this off. And if you're still watching, thank you. Hit that like and subscribe because you're a brave soul. Most people are too scared. They're too triggered too quickly to hang in there with me and go through the facts of what's happening. Okay? If you're too scared, go run away. Go click the X. Go click the suggested video right there with Mr. Beast, who's going to make you smile. And there's nothing wrong with entertainment. But look, if you want to know what's actually happening, you got to keep watching. All right? So yeah, let me know what you guys think in the chat. Debate me on any of these points. I want to have a debate. You know, I want to get through it. So we talked about the oil. Let's get into the actual war, because we're going to go straight to Marco Rubio's mouth. Okay, and this is at the beginning of the war. He said this statement as part of the attempt to sell it. But now his statement's coming back to bite him in the ass.
Their nuclear ambitions. They are producing, by some estimates, over 100 of these missiles a month. Compare that to the 6 or 7 interceptors that can be built a month. They can build 100 of these a month, not to mention the thousands of one-way attack drones that they also have.
There you go. He just explained it himself, all right? The Foreign Policy Research Institute highlights that the U.S.-led coalition expended approximately 5,100 munitions across 35 types in the first 96 hours of the conflict with Iran. And I said this, okay, in April. I warned everybody, and I'll play that for you right now. We used up 9 years of cruise missiles in the first 2 weeks of this war. It's going to take 9 years to replace the missiles that we fired in 2 weeks of the beginning of this war. Okay, and those missiles are missiles that we've paid for with our tax dollars. They're supposed to be deterrent against the enemies of the United States. They've now been fired, exploded, and will take 9 years to build back. For what, right? For a strategic loss of the Strait of Hormuz. That's what it's looking like. We used up. There you go. I said it, okay? I'll put it on the screen. April 22nd, okay? And I probably said it even sooner than that, because I said that in a live stream and then I made the short. Anyways, the point is, I saw this coming. And now the Joint Chiefs of Staff, right, the people who run the military in the U.S., are telling Trump, we can't keep fighting this war. We can't keep trying to bomb them. And if you understand warfare, okay, which probably most of you guys don't, and honestly, studying this war has helped me to understand warfare, especially modern warfare, better. Air warfare is almost meaningless. This insane amount of bombing that we did on Iran, it didn't matter at all. Yeah, Trump will go out and he'll lie, right? He's been lying every single day for the last 150, whatever amount of days. It's in the description. You know, we're in day 150 at least of this war. We've destroyed everything, their whole capability, everything, right? Yeah, no. You think about what that is, right? 5,100 strikes. It's a missile taking out like a 10 by 10 square meter area. You know, it's like blowing up a few vehicles, maybe, if they're parked next to each other. On the scale of a country that's 80 million people that has been preparing for this war for 60 years, it's meaningless. The air campaign is meaningless. And we lost. We lost the air campaign. It's over. The U.S. lost. Okay? That's the truth. The U.S. is out of air interceptors. I can't believe I didn't put this in the slide. I got to put this in a slide here. Anyways, I'll tell you before I search it. The U.S. has abandoned their military bases in the Middle East. I can't remember the exact figure. That's why I want to look it up. Right? U.S. abandons Middle East bases. All right? I don't know if they're going to... Come on, I want a number. Yeah. At least 13 U.S. bases uninhabitable. Okay? The U.S. has retreated. Is that victory? Is that a win? The U.S. has retreated from the Middle East on the ground. Okay? That's what matters. If you want to have a real war, it's on the ground. It's men with guns and machines making their way on the ground and eliminating anything that opposes them militarily. That's a real war. An air war is nothing. They kill a couple people here. They blow up a thing over there. They blow up a vehicle over there. They blow up, and most of the time they're blowing up mountains. They'll admit it. They blew up the mountain entrance to some missile complex in Iran. Iran just goes in with bulldozers and it's open in a week or two. At worst case scenario for them. So we've blown up all of these missiles that take us years to make. And like I said, don't take my word for it. Just listen to Marco Rubio. Just listen to Marco Rubio, okay? You don't have to believe the random guy on the internet. And like I said, you don't have to believe me about anything I say on this channel. You can verify every single thing. I'm a biomedical engineer, okay? I have a master's degree. I've been a scientist my whole life. Nothing I say on this channel hasn't been heavily researched. So go check it out for yourself. And if you can't disprove me, then you got to accept my conclusions. But most people are not going to do that. It's going to be the very select few. We got 4 people watching right now. Thank you guys for watching. For now, you're the only people who are going to hear this message. Because I don't know if nobody else is going to tell you this. Nobody else is going to say the U.S. lost the air war. People are going to, equivocate and they're going to hedge it. They're going to be, oh, well, this or that. In this war, to secure the objectives that everyone said at the beginning on both sides, Iran has won. And the U.S. has been defeated, as in we need years to rebuild our missile silos. And worse than that, we need to reevaluate our entire warfare strategy, because these expensive missiles and these expensive interceptors that take years to make, compared with the this cheap, fast, small scale missile, small scale drone. I don't want to get too deep into the weeds about the details of modern warfare that this war has revealed. But it has revealed that the U.S.'s strategy of $100 million cruise missiles, or whatever they are, doesn't work. It's outdated. As anyone who heard that, the B-2 bomber costs $1 billion to build. I mean, do you know how much money $1 billion is and how valuable one aircraft is? I mean, it's insane. The amount of money that has been spent in the United States on the military is insane. Here's another factoid. Did you know on September 10th, 2001, right? The day before September 11th, 2001, 9/11, the day before that, Donald Rumsfeld, who was the Secretary of State in charge of the U.S. military, said, we lost $2 trillion in the military. Oops. $2 trillion in 2001. Go look that one up. The very next day 9/11 happened, nobody cared about it anymore. Nobody thought about it ever again, except for me and the 4 people watching right now. So nobody knows about that. The amount of money sloshing around. That's what this stream is about, by the way. This stream is, and let's just cut to the chase. Let's get right into it. Mammon. I put it in the descriptor, okay? Let's find the King James. No man can serve 2 masters, for either he will hate the one and love the other, or else he will hold to the one and despise the other. Ye cannot serve God and Mammon. Mammon. We've been talking about the mistranslations on this channel. To me, it's the most important information I've ever discovered on this channel, and in general. The fact that at this point, the number is so high for me, at least 100 separate words or phrases in the Bible are mistranslated in the most fundamental way. And, I don't want to get too much into it. If you haven't watched, you're going to have to catch up. Focusing on Mammon here, the same mechanism as priest, bishop, church, clergy. called transliteration. The word in Aramaic was mammon, and it meant money. It meant wealth. It meant your wallet. It didn't mean a demon, and that's what it became. Mammon was invented as a demon. It was given a capital M, and it's been corrected many places. Look, wealth here, mammon there. Money here, money, and often it's money. I mean, that's what it is. It's money. Here's mammon again, right? But in the King James, it's mammon. And this is historically lined right up with everything we talked about. The fact that Christianity was captured in 314 AD by Constantine and has been captured ever since, because you're not allowed to criticize the worship of money. And this was punishable by death during the Dark Ages, the 1,000 years of the rule of the church over Christianity and over Europe, essentially, where they said, if you don't agree with all these insane literal changes to the Word of God, from what Jesus actually taught, if you don't agree, we're going to kill you. And that's what they did. They killed, probably millions of people, tens of millions of people. And some of the people who were killed were the ones who said, I'm taking a vow of poverty, and that's what Jesus taught. Jesus taught poverty. He taught saying no to wealth. And the people who said that, they were killed by the Catholic Church and any church, basically, for thousands or hundreds of years. So everything I talk about tonight is about this. It's about mammon. You cannot serve God and money, okay? And this fact has been very clear to me as I study what's going on, as I study the moral bankruptcy of this country, right? The Epstein files, we've gone over it, all the stuff, okay? The moral bankruptcy is why this nation is in the position that it's in right now. And unfortunately, I see most people are sticking. They're sticking with mammon. They're sticking with money over God. And, I sympathize, okay? Everyone around you, everyone around us is doing the same thing. And most people are focusing on money, not because they, are greedy, but because they're afraid. They're afraid of running out of money. They're afraid of, what's going to happen when they don't have the next paycheck or the next whatever it is. Money controls their life in that way. But what Jesus was calling us to do was to let go of your fear regardless of your financial situation. And if you're in a good financial situation, you better be doing your best to help serve the world with that money, the way of service. And that's how I look at my situation. And so the people who are in fear about money because they don't have enough, I sympathize, more than sympathize. We are living in this immoral empire that is controlled by love of money, by the turning away from God to serve money. And so we are surrounded by it, and we are told over and over every day, every hour, that we need more money, that we need to spend money over here, spend money over there, right? An equal lie. What did Jesus say about it, right? What did Jesus say about it? Here's the passage. No one can serve two masters. Either you will hate the one and love the other, or you will be devoted to the one and despise the other. You cannot serve both God and money. Do not worry. The very next passage. Therefore, I tell you, do not worry about your life, what you will eat or drink, or about your body, what you will wear. Is not life more than food, and the body more than clothes? Look at the birds of the air. They do not sow or reap or store away in barns, and yet your heavenly Father feeds them. Are you not much more valuable than they? Can any one of you, by worrying, add a single hour to your life? And why do you worry about clothes? See how the flowers of the field grow. They do not labor or spin. And I tell you, not even Solomon in all his splendor was dressed like one of these. If that is how God clothes the grass of the field, which is here today and tomorrow is thrown into the fire, will he not much more clothe you, ye of little faith? Jesus is saying, no matter what, put your trust in God. And for those of you who are listening to this, and I hope you're still with me, if maybe Bible passages makes you click away, and I hope it doesn't, but I tell you what, it used to make me click away. It used to make me click away until I discovered that they have absolutely destroyed Jesus' message with mistranslations, with doctrinal declarations over the last 1,700 years. And the amazing thing is that when you strip away these mistranslations, everything Jesus said clicks into place and is exactly right. So that is my message of the night. We'll get more into the details here. I don't see any chats unless my chat's not working. I don't know what's going on. You guys, are you guys there? I mean, I guess we only have three viewers, so not a lot of people to put in chats. That's all right. That's all right. I think that this message is going to hit the whole world. You know, nobody else is talking about the mistranslations like I am. And I've searched for it. Nobody makes the coherent argument. It's not out there. And so I'm going to make the argument, and we're going to go from 3 viewers to 3 billion viewers. How about the whole world? I don't know if there's anybody, I mean, you know, there's probably a couple people here or there, but there's at least 7 billion people on the planet who are affected by the mistranslations of Jesus Christ's words. You know, even the people who don't follow Jesus, don't read the Bible, they've heard of Jesus, and they heard that he tells you you're going to go to hell if you don't believe in Jesus, which is not what Jesus taught. You know, again, this is a whole nother rabbit hole. I've talked about this 100 times, but I'm going to talk about it many more times because it's so relevant. Eternal punishment in hell is a mistranslation. All 3 words are mistranslated. Hell was Gehenna, which is a place in Jerusalem that you can go. It gets 4.6 stars on Google Maps. Go search up Gehenna. Google search hell is Gehenna, and come back and tell me I'm wrong. I'd say I'll wait, but I'm not going to wait. I can't wait for the people. I can't wait for the people to catch up with me, okay? I am diving so deep into this stuff. It's mind-blowing, guys. It's mind-blowing. I would love for somebody to say something in the chat because I'm worried that my chat is broken or something. So if there's anybody alive out there who's watching, please type it in. Did I get banned already? Like, what's going on? I'm down to 1 viewer. Oh my goodness. All right, whatever. Recording it for posterity then. Where were we? Here's a graph of the missing missiles, right? Pre-war, in February, you had all these missiles. Now, today, you're down to this level. Again, these are the main cruise missile that the U.S. uses. More than half gone in like 4 months. I mean, what is it? It's, okay, February 27th, July 27th. What is that? That's, I guess it's 5 months? Yeah, 5 months. Not even half a year, okay? Not even half a year to deplete the main weapon that the U.S. has used in this war. It's almost gone. Oops. It's almost gone. I mean, how insane. I can't believe I'm sitting here saying this, and you go to like CNBC, nobody's talking about it. I mean, there's an article here or there, people will mention it, but they should be talking about, on CNN. What a joke, right? CNN, turn it on. This is the only thing they should be talking about. This is the only thing. I mean, if the media were doing its job, every red alarm would be going off. Hey, everybody, the country is literally being run into the ground, right? Literally firing off missiles into the ground, into mountainsides, like I described earlier. Literally into the ground, right here, into the ground, blowing up dirt. Okay? That's literally what's happening. Oh, and I just got a big chat update. Man, I don't know. Okay. All right. I think I'm glad you guys are there. I'm glad I just saw an update. Yeah, Ryan says that it was so thank you for chatting, guys. Let me see if I open another window here. This is a brand new setup, so I'm just guessing that this might allow me to read the chats a little better. Okay, great. Yeah, I've seen this happen to other streamers. People who tell the truth about this stuff, they get shut down pretty fast. They got the whole algorithm. They got the AI listening to me. And when I say key words, it's, better stop him. You're not going to stop me. You're not going to stop me, guys. I don't care what you do. You're not stopping me. That's another part of this. When you trust God, when you listen to what Jesus said, do not worry, you take that to heart, you are fucking unstoppable. Okay? You're unstoppable. I'm not afraid of them. I'm not afraid of them banning me. I'm not afraid of them disappearing me, whatever. Do your worst, guys. Because as Obi-Wan Kenobi said, strike me down and I will become more powerful than you can imagine. Oh, what?
Ryan wanted me to let you know that there might be something wrong with the chat.
Oh, yeah, I think, all right. I got technical help. I think I just fixed it. I think I just fixed the chat, at least from my end. The chat on the screen might still be delayed, but I have another screen for the chat. Although Ryan says it must be broken. Say something after it must be broken, Ryan, so that I can see if it's working for me. There's not much I can do to fix that one. I mean, that's about as good as I can get if it's not on there. Anyways, folks, I was right. I was so fired up there. Where was I? It's all right. Everything happens for a reason. That's what I was saying. Do not worry. Do not worry. It doesn't matter what they do. Okay? If people do the right thing, that's why I teach the way of service. If people actually follow God, it's unstoppable. And there's been scientific studies on this. It's incredible. We'll get into it in a few minutes. All right, Ryan didn't say anything, so now I'm worried that it's still broken. Somebody say something in the chat. There we go. So the Star Wars reference. There we go. Okay. Yes. Chat's there. All right. Let's go to the chat, guys. I hope you're still with me, guys. Oh, Tim's here too. Although it says I only have 3 viewers, so how could Eleanor, Hannah, Ryan, and Tim all be here if... All right, so Ryan says, winning, what does that mean? Who is the enemy? What are the goals of this war, military actions? Hard for me to have an opinion on the success or failure of the actions taken. Considering I could go into criticizing all the aspects of this conflict, including the money spent, actions taken, I believe the direct primary objective has been to directly assault and overthrow Iran. Well, look, Ryan, let me scroll up for everybody. Why is this so complicated? All right. The objectives have been stated publicly. For the U.S., it's dismantling the Iran nuclear program. That's not happening. And if any, it's the exact opposite of that is going to happen. Iran is absolutely not going to get rid of its nuclear ambitions as a result of this war. The new objective has been to clear the Strait of Hormuz, to open the Strait of Hormuz for traffic as it was before the war began. That has not happened. I mean, that has been, to me, I saw that in March, and that's why I sounded the alarm here on this channel. The Strait of Hormuz is why this war matters to the rest of the world. And definitely the U.S., despite what the liars on television and in politics will tell you, the Strait of Hormuz is the war. That is the story. Is the Strait of Hormuz open? Before the war, the Strait of Hormuz was open and oil was being traded in U.S. dollars. Now the Strait of Hormuz is closed, and I believe that it will only reopen under a different monetary regime. That is my thesis, and it has been borne out over the last 3 or 4 months since I made the prediction. Okay, it has not been invalidated. So I think, Ryan, you like to play devil's advocate, but the actual objectives, who is the enemy? I mean, this stuff is pretty straightforward, honestly. And in other wars, maybe it wasn't, but to me, it's pretty straightforward for this one. And guys, if you want, use the live stream chat room. Hannah jumped in there. Thank you, Hannah. I'll try to check that. I'm working on one laptop screen. Usually I have 3 monitors lined up, so I have all sorts of space to talk to you guys and figure out what's going on. So Ryan, I don't want to dismiss what you're saying, Ryan, so I'm going to continue reading what you said. I could go on criticizing the distant aspects of this conflict, including the money spent, actions or actions taken. I don't believe that the primary objective has been to directly overthrow Iran. Would a success or failure of this conflict if the result is to overturn the tables of the world money changers? And some measures of that result would be terrible. So much suffering in effect worldwide in the process. But is that a success or failure in the long run? It must be broken. Okay. I agree with you, Ryan. So I think, Ryan, that you have the long-term vision that I have. Yes, I think that the ultimate result is going to be probably a redefinition of the entire idea of money. And hopefully, I believe if humanity makes the right choices vis-a-vis choosing God over money, and God is also our higher self, right? Our angels, our spirit guides, whatever you want to say, everything oriented upwards and towards what I would call God, the ultimate source, creator, mother, father, friend God, versus our lower demons, our lower impulses, basically to serve ourself, to serve our ego, to serve our fear that we don't have enough money. When we wake up, do we trust God or do we think about how we don't have enough money? I guarantee you, almost everyone wakes up thinking about money and not God. I mean, it's just true. And according to my calculations, it should be at least 4% of the world should be waking up thinking about God. But even those people who wake up thinking about God, I think they end up thinking about money. And money also, to me, the word mammon almost works a little better to encompass this, but it's everything ego related. I mean, it's yin and yang. It's good and evil. Evil is focused on their self. You're focused on, if it's not money, it's status, it's power, it's, social standing, or, keeping up with the Joneses, being the person with the greatest thing, the greatest garden, the greatest homestead for some of you people watching. Do you think about that, or do you think about God? Do you think about Who needs me today? Who needs my service, my talents? What is the best way for me to help the world, to help everyone, the most people that I can, the fastest way that I can, the most urgent things that need help that I've been ignoring? You know, people close to me first. What can I clear the air on? What can I go and set myself right with this person, right? That's what the word confession meant. When Jesus taught confess, the word was honesty in your community. It wasn't go to the priest and tell him all your secrets so he has leverage over you, which is what it became. Confession is admitting your faults to your family and friends and coworkers and being open about where you stand and what you need and what's going on. You know, following God is so awesome. It's so great. And all the evidence says that it's the way to live, and that's what I'm here to teach and help you guys with. The objectives have been stated, sure, but do you trust those statements? I mean, yeah, I understand what you're saying, Ryan, and I agree with you. Like, obviously, there's a hidden agenda, but and I do the same with the mistranslations and with the historical analysis. We don't need to get into conspiracy theories or, what are the people doing behind the scenes? We can get into it, but without even looking into it, they're lying. Trump is lying on a daily basis about the U.S.'s ability to achieve these strategic objectives. And whether or not it's because of some dark plan behind the scenes or because they're just stupid, that's not what it is. All right. But we can say, oh, they're just stupid, but still the fact of the matter is the U.S. empire is fucked. Okay? That's the point of this stream. And I don't need to talk about anything beyond the facts that are on the front pages right now. Okay? The Strait of Hormuz will not reopen under the US dollar, and there will be and is a restructuring away from the US dollar. Now, how much of the US remaining wealth will be completely and utterly annihilated and destroyed by the current regime? That's questionable. I almost said another word there, and I'm probably already shadow banned or whatever it is. I mean, we've got 4 viewers. I don't know if I've ever had this few views. So I have 8 views. This counter might not be right. But anyways, I feel like I'm probably shadow banned already, so I'll just continue to be honest. But there's a word in there, the E network, Mr. JEFF. These people who are in charge, how much are they going to destroy before the end of this scene, before the end of this war? That's the question, guys. That's the question. As I said, so we went. It's funny because I was like, do I have enough material? I was underestimate how much ranting I'm going to do, and I knew I was going to do a lot of ranting tonight. I have a lot of rants to get through, so bear with me, folks. So we went through the interceptors, right? This is the offense and this is the defense. For those of you who aren't familiar, right? They had interceptors take down the other teams. The other side's missiles, and the Patriots are offensive missiles. Both of them have been incredibly depleted in a very short period of time. So what do you do if you're losing the air war and you want to win the war? Well, you only have one other option, and that's a ground war. And we actually have a perfect example of a ground war that happened very recently in the Iran-Iraq war from 1980 to 1988, an estimated 500,000 to over 1 million deaths on the ground in a war between Iran and Iraq. And you can imagine how much worse this would be with modern warfare, especially when we are out of interceptors and have already retreated from the theater. So the idea that the US could win some sort of ground war in Iran is a joke. It's a joke. It would never happen, and it would require a mobilization of estimates are between 500,000 and 1 million troops into Iran, which we don't have. So they would have to draft the public. It would require a draft. And by the way, that wouldn't win the war. I mean, just throwing bodies at it isn't going to win the war. So, that's where we stand. And I thought this was going to be a lot worse because I thought that they were going to do the ground war. And I mean, I can only hope and assume that cooler heads have prevailed, because there's no support for this war publicly. If a draft were to be started, it would be 95% against the war. I mean, and like I said, I mean, I think in November, the Democrats are going to take over, and it's going to get even more implausible that the U.S. is going to win this war. The U.S. has already lost. It's over. It's not going to be turned back on. And I'm thankful for that. I would rather the U.S. admit defeat. I mean, the best thing to do would be Trump comes out and says, look, we're sorry, we were wrong. We let the country in that one country in the Middle East that I'm not supposed to say, thank you, Hannah. I mean, I already said it. But anyways, we let them get us into this war, and we screwed it up, and now we need to pay reparations, whatever it is, to get things back to normal. I mean, that would probably be the best thing. That's also never going to happen. Right. That's never going to happen. Right. Trump's going to come out and apologize tomorrow. Okay. When pigs fly, when hell freezes over, what do the kids say nowadays? What is the word for this? I mean, it's like never going to happen. As my father once said, never in my lifetime. And my father was a great guy, but anyway, for those of you who know me, that's hopefully pretty funny. Yeah, my number of views has not gone up, so I really feel like this is shadow banned. If I get 0 views, which never happens. Like, I get people pop in and out of here on every live stream, but if I get 0 more views and it's only the people who are already here, 100% shadow ban. I don't care what anybody says. That's what it is. And that's what they have to do to keep people from figuring this stuff out. They are panicking. You want to talk about what's going on behind the scenes, Ryan, right? Because we have this image of the people in power in our country. They're just so, and this is the image they project, which is everything is perfect. They're going according to my plan, right? That's Palpatine. Palpatine's like, yes, good. Everything is exactly as I planned it. They planned the U.S. collapse. But the U.S. has been their place of power. You don't think some of them are going to get backstabbed and screwed over in whatever chaos they're planning or thinking is going to happen? I mean, it's not good for them, okay? Best case scenario was what they were telling everybody was that they win this war. But, maybe they were able to, they wanted to just keep steamrolling these countries in the Middle East as they've been doing for decades. They thought that they could do the same thing to Iran that they did to Iraq or to Syria or to Libya, right? Or to Lebanon or to Gaza. That's the model. the steamrolling, the war is over in short order, and they get to do whatever they want. Well, it didn't work out for them this time. So that's the difference, in my opinion. When men can have babies. Oh, wait, they say that already. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I don't think that they have. Kids nowadays, everyone wants to pretend that everything is possible. As in, you're going to get $1 million tomorrow because you started some internet business or whatever. Anything is possible with God and with following the truth. You know, the manifestation people, there's so many tangents I can go off on here, guys. But the manifestation people who think, oh, I can have whatever I want in my life, that's the way of the ego. That's evil. That's dark magic. That's what it is. And this is another thing that I'm trying to tell people, because people in the New Age space, they agree with me on almost everything that I'm saying, but they don't understand the way of service. So hopefully this live stream will show why you got to stop trying to manifest whatever you want and get on board with the spiritual revolution that we need. We need a spiritual revolution to solve this problem, okay? Because we don't want to end up with, a ground war in Iran, which somebody's going to probably propose more strongly than they have in the recent current times. When the oil problem gets way worse, somebody's going to say something. When inflation gets worse, somebody's going to say something about invading Iran, and we'll see what happens. I don't think, in other words, we're not out of the woods yet, right? We're not out of the woods yet. All right. I gotta mentally get over being shadow banned in real time. Okay, in real time. All right, where were we? Yeah, so here's another piece of facts. This happened 4 days ago, August 7th, 2026. Mecca Joint Defense Agreement between Saudi Arabia, Turkey, and Pakistan. Okay, this is an example of moving away from the U.S. What is the consequence of the U.S. losing the air war? The consequence of, they're obviously not going to prosecute a ground war. I think that's been kind of made clear around the world. That at least that's the current expectation. There's not going to be a ground war. Trump's been talking about peace since whatever it was, May 1st or something. Maybe it was even April. I forget. I think it was mid-April. Talking about peace. And so it appears that we want peace, and that the ground, and I think also it's clear that the public support for ground war is not there, okay? And I don't know any country that's ever prosecuted a massive ground war without public support. So they would have to figure out a way to create the public support, and I don't know what that would be. I don't want to imagine it. The countries that the U.S. used to protect, like Saudi Arabia, Pakistan, Turkey's part of NATO, they've created their own defense agreement. Okay, this is away from the U.S. Now, what is incredible to me about this is that this runs exactly parallel to what happened to the British Empire when it collapsed in 1958, I believe it was, with the Suez Crisis. The exact same area, right? The Suez is right next to the Strait of Hormuz. The battle over the Suez Canal is what led the world to abandon the British sterling pound as the world reserve currency and replace it with the US dollar. And it was over a military battle over the Suez Canal, which in this case, the British Empire actually won the battle. They won the battle. But the US pulled the plug on their oil. Eisenhower said, we're going to cut off your oil, Britain. And the US brokered the Bretton Woods Agreement, which led to the U.S. being the holder of the currency of import in the world, right? It was this British sterling pound. Before that, you may not know this, it was the Spanish dollar. Before the British Empire, it was the Spanish dollar was the global currency. And then the British Empire ran things for a couple hundred years. And then the U.S. Empire ran things until, I don't know, 2027, 2026, I don't know, 2028 maybe. I mean, it's not much longer, guys. That's the call I'm making here. I could be wrong. I'd love to be wrong. I don't know if I'd love to be wrong. I think the chat, this is a good time to go to the chat because I think you guys are kind of ahead of me on this. Let's go look at it. To the chat. I'm here to talk to the chat. If you're watching the replay, I put the chapters below so you can skip the chat sections if you want. I feel like this is one where if anybody's watching the replay, you're probably watching the whole thing, or it's just not going to get any replay views because I'm shadow banned or whatever. All right, the objectives. Okay, Ryan says, all right, this is where we picked up. Ryan says, what about Trump's opponents? Are they also lying? The U.S. empire failing, is that a bad thing? Restructuring, is that a bad thing? The wealth has already been exposed, at least 90% in just my lifetime. Not exposed, destroyed. Yeah, well, this is the question, right? I mean, look, I agree with restructuring. Like I just said, maybe the collapse of the U.S. dollar or the U.S. dollar hegemony in the world is not a bad thing in the long run. I mean, in the long run, God makes good of everything. But what I am saying here is to get people to wake up out of their complacency. Because, sure, in the long run, God always wins. But what's going to be your personal experience of eternity, basically? Your experience is going to be how you act. And I don't think that the earth or humanity is guaranteed a good outcome. I mean, I think that God will make our spiritual result always work out. But the earth could be destroyed. Humanity could kill itself. I think that that's entirely possible because the ultimate reality is not on earth. So what happens here is a consequence of what we choose to do in our lives. And I think we came to live in these lives because we care about what happens. I know I care about what happens. So, yes, I think it's an opportunity, right? The restructuring is an opportunity. And my understanding of the trajectory of history makes me optimistic that humanity will choose the right thing. But I think it's an open question based on if you choose to like and subscribe the way of service, to follow the way of service, and more importantly, to follow God when you wake up. And not get caught up in fear, doubt, uncertainty, anger, ego, all of the bad habits that you've had in your whole life that you know are bad, that you shouldn't be doing. Are you doing them today? That's what's going to determine whether it is a good outcome or if it's a bad outcome, or at least a bad outcome in the short term, right? And that's like the game of eternity. The short term is everything, and it's also nothing, right? Ultimately, this is all a game. It's all a play. It's God's play. But it's as real as anything can be. So it's a paradox. So, yeah, I don't think the answer is so easy to be like, well, it's a good thing. I mean, yeah, it's a good thing, but don't get caught. And I know a lot of the people listening, and again, let's see if we've got 0 additional views. I don't know. It just must be broken unless, I don't know, man. Something in the chat. Oh, I don't have anything in this chat. Where was I? I gotta stop letting these things distract me, these little blips. Yeah, is it a good thing or is it a bad thing? That's the question. Oh, I got one more view. Okay. All right, I can stop looking at it. Oh, man. It's funny because, I only have the time and energy to do these live because that's what I care about. I care about connecting with real live people. And I don't have the flashiness. I don't have the edits. I can do, some edits here or there, but it's a lot of work. So this is how I can get the information to you guys. And if I screw up and it's awkward for a second, I mean, whatever. I can't. This is what it is. All right, let's get back to the chat. I think I lost that thread, so hopefully we'll pick it back up. Yeah, the wealth has already been destroyed. So that's the problem, right? So this is the counterbalance to what I said about what Jesus said about wealth, right? Jesus said this about wealth. You cannot serve both God and money. But I don't think that Jesus was saying you can never touch money. You should never be involved with money. Money needs to vanish completely from your life. I think that money is a tool, right? Money it's a part of society right now. It's normal for you to engage with money here and there, right? To be involved in the exchange of money. You should get money for what you do. You should let people pay you because it's important for you to pay your bills or, pay the tax man ultimately. I mean, that we're all forced to do that. And so, and people will lie to you and say, oh, you can just not pay them. And it doesn't work, okay? They have the guns pointed at you. They'll come and take your stuff. Not every time, right? Some people get away with it, but do you want to have that risk? Right? I mean, I guess, maybe I need to learn this lesson too, because, maybe you just don't worry. But to me, Jesus said it, right? Give Caesar his due. He printed his face on the money. Give it back to him, right? Don't let your life get destroyed by money on the other end because you don't pay your taxes or whatever. But the point is, let God govern that. Don't make that your focus, your thought. Where are your emotions coming from? If your emotions are focused on money, then you are following money as a master. And as Jesus said, you cannot follow two masters. Now, a person who follows God can receive and spend money, but that person has let go of money as the motivating factor of their behavior and of their emotions. So I hope that distinction is understood by you guys. All right, so Eleanor says the same thing. The U.S. empire falling as a bad thing, maybe it's not bad in the long run, but it could be way worse in the short run. Sounds accelerationist. Yeah, so Eleanor, you understand. My dear wife, she understands the nuance of, yes, the U.S. empire is it just lost a major war and is facing its position as the world superpower to be in big trouble. All right. Again, the Suez details that are on your screen. If anybody's reading that, I'll scroll down for you so you can read more. This is Claude helping me analyze it. But basically, the U.S. was like, hey, Britain, we're not going to let you do this. We're not going to let you take over the Suez Canal militarily. You got to stop doing that. And I'm not clear on all the details, to be honest with you. I just researched this, so I could be messing a couple of them up. But basically, Eisenhower's like, we're not going to let you do this. We're pulling the plug on you economically. And I feel like the same thing's going to happen to Trump. I mean, look at what Trump's doing in the world. If he tries to continue to prosecute this war, for example, if he continues the blockade, that's the big question, the naval blockade of the Strait of Hormuz, which is a major piece of leverage over Iran. But the problem is what's going to happen in November when Trump loses this election. I mean, that's what is going to happen in the next 6 months is going to kind of tell us where things are headed, And My prediction is that the world is going to say, we're not putting up with Trump anymore. We can't rely on the US dollar anymore. We can't rely on the US military to protect us because they just failed. And yeah, and that's exactly what happened to Britain. It's exactly what happened to Britain in 1958, I believe it was. Yeah. So yeah, I think that's the story on the war and its consequences. It's really bad for the US, guys. Okay, so all the chats, this looks like, did I have more chats over here? No, okay. All right, we're almost through the chats. Let's see. Hannah says, shadow banning, energy harvesting, water off a duck's back. Exactly. They do your worst, right? If you're taking fire, you're over the target. That's how I see it. Something in the chat. What does that mean, Tim? Did you try to put something in the chat and it didn't work, or what? Ryan says, there's a very large difference between money, wealth, and currency. Right. And that's an interesting question of what did Mammon, right? Literally the word in Aramaic, Mammon, which meant money, it was very simple. So I think that the word money is correct in this translation. And Mammon is an obfuscation, right? A point that Claude made was Mammon became a demon that they created. They gave it a capital M. You cannot serve God and Mammon. But nobody served Mammon because they made it up. And so nobody's worshiping Mammon. And so everybody's like, oh, I'm good. I worship God. I don't worship Mammon. That's why they changed it. That's why the King James says Mammon. That's why the Latin Bible said Mammon. Because they had to obfuscate money. Because the real message is not acceptable to empire. And it's the same empire that's been in control, that screwed up Jesus' teachings and made me think for the majority of my life that Jesus didn't know what he was talking about. I rejected it. And I still reject it. The false, mistranslated version of what Jesus taught. But now that I've reversed the mistranslations, I realize Jesus was absolutely right about everything. And it's amazing. It's awesome. I love it. Wow. Well, we covered a major topic, and I didn't even get into any of my vacation ranting. I'm gonna get it off my chest. I'm not gonna worry about it. I'm like, oh, should I end the live stream and then whatever? Tonight's the night for me to tell you. So we've been traveling. It's been great. I mean, I love being on vacation. I'm really good at it, to be honest with you. I have a great time. I meditate. I just look at the beauty. I listen to music. I go through the nostalgia. I love it. I love it. I have a great time. Like I said, I follow my own advice. I wake up thinking about God and just having a great time, enjoying life. This stuff doesn't bother me at all, okay? This used to bother me a lot. And I will admit, I have personally positioned myself pretty well for this outcome, right? Gold, silver, Bitcoin, real estate. I mean, those are the things that are going to survive a collapse. So, might be a good idea to grab some if you don't have any. But yeah, it doesn't bother me, and it's not because I'm financially positioned. It's because I have God. I understand the truth. I was joking with my family the other day. Maybe my tagline should be, "The universe is magical, you idiot." I mean, like, all the evidence says God exists. All the evidence says the universe is made up of God's consciousness, our collective consciousness, spiritual power, and alignment with spiritual truths is what determines how good or bad your life is, not how much money you have. You know, and this is all part of the rant that I had prepared. I'll just get right into it. The air travel, okay? Here are my kids reading the airline safety precautions. I actually wrote an essay about how air travel is the worst thing ever. They have somehow made the most amazing human accomplishment, one of the most amazing human accomplishments, flying. They have made it into this awful, awful experience. And the awful experience is because of the worship of God, of money, of mammon, money, wealth, whatever you want to call it. It's choosing making money over taking care of people. Hospitality, okay? And I know about hospitality, guys. I used to run a restaurant called Local Root in Chicago. Here's a few pictures of what we did. For 4 years in downtown Chicago, I ran a restaurant, and I studied hospitality. And I believe in it very deeply. In fact, when I created the way of service, I was thinking customer service. I think I put that in one of the early videos. You know, we should be treating each other like we treat the most precious customer. And I realize now it's stupid. It's not even customer. It's like, you know, as Jesus said, your neighbor. Treat people as if they are Jesus himself. That's what he said. What you did unto the least of these, you did unto me. That's the way the universe works. The universe works such that however you treat someone, if you don't treat them as well as you would treat Jesus if he was there in front of you, you have come up short. And that coming up short is not an indictment of you. It's a perfect standard to try to live up to. It's like it's an eternal challenge to treat everyone the way you would treat the most precious person that you can imagine. You know, your friend, your mother, your father, God himself, Jesus, whatever you want to put there. That is the way of service, okay? But air travel is not like that, okay? And so just my example was, you know, we get on the flight. It was a 5 a.m. flight. I don't know who schedules these things, right? But it was the best deal. I didn't want to get ripped off by the airline, and it worked for our schedule. There was not a lot of options. We got the basic economy. I'd never seen this before. You're not allowed to have a carry-on bag, okay? So they force us to pay an extra $50 to check our carry-on bag. We get on the plane. There's nobody on this plane. Everybody is packed into basic economy in the very back of the plane. All of the economy plus seats are empty. And all the economy plus seats have like double the leg room, right? I went and sat up there for a few minutes because I was like, there's nobody here. If they're following the way of service, they would make an announcement 15, 20 minutes before the plane takes off, whatever. There's a way to do it with computers to get everybody into the best seats for free. Do it for free. Because the same outcome's going to happen. I'm not paying you $100 extra per person, right? $400 for my family to go sit up in the economy plus. No, I'm going for least rip-off job possible. You as a company could tell me you get to go sit up there. Now people could say, oh, well, you can get a free upgrade. It shouldn't be up to me to know their system. Okay, that's not service. That's not taking care of people. Okay? And I want to expand this out into the big picture, okay? Here's one of my favorite photos from our trip to California. Beautiful place. But if you want to live in the nice part of a good city, you know, like LA or, I mean, you know, debatable whether it's good or not, whatever. You want to live in a nice part of a good city in California, you got to make $200,000, $300,000, $400,000 a year minimum. Okay. What does it take to make that much money? Well, you got to sell your soul. I mean, that's what I've seen. Most people, even the modern entrepreneurs, whatever, they're creating cool things, they're creating cool products, but they're doing this same insane marketing, the manipulative sales tactics, the manipulative marketing to get people to see their product. And I think about what they have to go through to do what they do every day. It just sounds like an absolute nightmare to me. You can't wake up thinking about God when every day you wake up thinking about how to make more money. That's what almost everybody's doing. And so we need a spiritual revolution. I'm confident we can do it, but it's got to happen. It's got to happen on the small scale first. We got to win the argument. That's what I'm here to do. I'm here to win the argument because doing things the same way is not going to work, right? I was thinking about this earlier today. What are we holding on to? People who would fight me will fight me in the comment sections. And what I'm saying, what are you holding on to? You're holding on to the status quo, the current status quo of comfort. Sure, it's physically comfortable, but it's spiritually and morally bankrupt. On the airplane, it's like, yeah, we have all these really nice seats over here for you, right? We have beautiful row upon row of empty seats with tons of leg room, rows where multiple people could have 3 seats to themselves and sleep horizontally, right? But we're not going to do it for you unless you give us money, right? That's the difference between seeing people as equal to your family, precious to you like God, the way you would treat your own elderly mother. Please, here, sit here in the best seat in the house. Let me take as good of care of you as I possibly can. No, I'll do it for money when it costs you nothing, right? The tickets are all sold. The plane is already empty. You can do it. But they won't because they know one person's going to pay them a little more. I don't know if you guys have seen Rick and Morty, but there's a great scene where Rick, the scientific genius, figures out how to change the intergalactic currency from being worth 1 of itself to being worth 0 of itself, and he creates an economic catastrophe. And it shows the aliens arguing in the White House, and one of them's like, I know how to solve this, and I'll solve it for money. And then they start fighting because there's no money, right? And that's the insanity that I'm trying to exercise out of everyone's soul. How do I pull this insanity out that's been installed in all of us since birth, right? The worship of money over God, the focus on money as the defining thing, the thing that defines everything. And unfortunately, I don't know if there's anywhere where that's more true than California. It's just kind of what happened, So it's a beautiful, beautiful, incredible place, but that's the state of affairs. That's the state of affairs. All right, I don't see any more chats. I want to see. How was it? I got a new setup, so this is pretty nice. I can look at my notes without showing them on screen and looking like a crazy person. All right, what did I Oh yeah, so many threads here, right? Are you guys still with me? Anybody in the chat? I still see you. We got 4 viewers, so I guess I can keep going. I'm jumping around on topics because I didn't want to plan this stream out too much. I'm pretty happy to just wing it. And I think it's been a pretty good one, in my opinion. All right, so yeah, California. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of goofy little stories. I think the biggest thing that we've realized is everybody is so busy. Right? Everybody is so busy trying to make money that nobody has time for each other. And my wife even looked it up, and it's called the Great Cousin Collapse. And part of this is people don't have time or money to have children. And so people aren't having children, or they're having way fewer children way later. And there's this thing called the Great Cousin Collapse. And I know when I was young, there were cousins all over the place that we could spend time with that were, kind of default friends. And now that's basically gone. And I just see it as the same problem, the same focus on money and worrying about money, fear about money. That, I see the chat agrees, right? It's going to be good that the US dollar collapses. But it won't be good if people don't change their mindset. People are just going to reach for the next currency, and Americans are just going to suffer in the same way that, Russians suffered when the Soviet Union collapsed, and basically all of the things that they relied on disappeared and everybody got poorer. That's not what I am hoping happens. What I'm hoping happens is that humanity can ascend in a way that makes money less important, if not irrelevant. Hopefully. And I think it's possible. Anything's possible with God. The point is, I don't know how it's going to happen, but we have to focus on God and not on making money each day. That's the solution. And we got to stop hedging, It's like, oh, I like God over here, but, I like God usually, but not in the rest of my life. This is what the Tao Te Ching says as well. It says the same thing. Passage 50. What good is it to spend your life accumulating material things? It isn't in keeping with the Tao. What benefit in conforming your behavior to someone's conventions? Money. It violates your nature and dissipates your energy. Why separate your spiritual life and your practical life? To an integral being, there is no such distinction. Live simply and virtuously, true to your nature, drawing no line between what is spiritual and what is not. Ignore time. Relinquish ideas and concepts. Embrace the oneness. This is the integral way. I have another quote from the Tao Te Ching that I always repeat to my wife. I got to find it for you guys. Come on. Is it this one? Yeah. Stop thinking and end your problems. What difference between yes and no? What difference between success and failure? Must you value what others value, avoid what others avoid? How ridiculous. That is maybe my favorite line. It kind of defines my life. Must you value what others value? Avoid what others avoid? How ridiculous. Other people are excited, as though they were at a parade. I alone don't care. I alone am expressionless, like an infant before it can smile. Other people have what they need. I alone possess nothing. I alone drift about like someone without a home. I am like an idiot. My mind is so empty. Other people are bright. I alone am dark. Other people are sharp. I alone am dull. Other people have a purpose. I alone don't know. I drift like a wave on the ocean. I blow as aimless as the wind. I am different from ordinary people. I drink from the Great Mother's breasts. The Great Mother is God, the feminine aspect of God. And that's how I feel, guys. That's how I feel. A spiritual revolution starting with each of us individually. And I mentioned earlier, I studied this scientifically. The scientific study says a nonviolent revolution succeeds twice as often as a violent revolution. So we don't need a violent revolution. That's why you don't have to ban me, YouTube. I'm talking about nonviolence. And 98.2%, okay, of revolutions that recruited 3.5% of the population succeeded. 98.2%. This is, again, a scientific study. You can look it up. 3.5% of the population is all it takes. And according to my math, we are totally capable of that. That's 11 million people in the US. If 11 million people decided to wake up every day and devote their life to God, to their higher self, to God's greatest plan for their life and for everyone, which includes the way of service, as I've been teaching it on this channel. It includes what Jesus actually taught when you strip away the mistranslations that I've been revealing. When you read Lao Tzu, when you read Krishna, when you read Buddha, all of them are saying the same thing. Devote your life to service, to God, and if 11, 12 million of us in the US can do that, we will be more than fine. The US dollar will likely collapse, but it will be replaced by something we can't even imagine how good it is. But that's up to us. Because if we wake up every day with the same fear, the same focus on money, the same trap that has been laid for everyone, we will continue in this dark path. And so that is the stark choice offered to us each day. And I know what I'm choosing. I know the choice I've made, guys. So yeah, I think that's everything on that list. I had a bunch of all sorts of other stuff. Maybe I should save this. I have so many ideas on my list. It's like, do I talk about it now? Do I talk about it later? Yeah, Hannah, winning with vibes. Yeah, it didn't update. Look at these guys. How does it not update over here? There we go. Winning with vibes. Yeah, nonviolence. Twice as effective. Scientifically studied. Historically studied. Nonviolent revolutions succeed twice as often. It'd be actually, now the scientist in me is thinking, if 3.5% of the population is mobilized, but those are violent revolutions. Maybe we only need half of that, whatever that is. 1.75% of the population, maybe? I don't know. It's a hypothesis. So that's my idea. I think I'm still shadow banned, by the way. We didn't get any more views beyond everybody that's in the chat, which is very, very strange. With the with the title and thumbnail that I made, I think it's nuts that nobody clicked on that. Absolutely not. YouTube absolutely buried this, so we can see what side of the fence YouTube fell on. Right? What are the people making the decisions at YouTube deciding when they wake up? God or money? What do you think? Put it in the chat, guys. Did they wake up thinking about God or did they wake up thinking about money? What do you think, guys? My first question of the chat, 2 hours in. What else did I have here? Missile defenses. Yeah, we covered that. Oh, God. And you want to know what the U.S. economy is betting everything on? Everything in the U.S. economy is currently being bet on AI. Everything. The stock market is being held up by AI. The economy is humming along because everybody's investments are still going up because of AI. It really feels like a precarious little plan that everybody has. Everybody thought that, this war would be over really fast, just like all the other ones, right? The U.S. would win super fast and easy. It's done. Regime changed. Iran put down, all good. The mighty U.S. military, the undefeated U.S. military. Not true, but that's the image that everybody has. The opposite happened. And now everything's all in on AI. Not a situation where I would be buying the market. That's just my opinion, guys. What other notes did I have here? Oh, yeah. Claude told me not to complain about boomers. I guess I could save that one. I'll save that one. Overdue for the spiritual revolution. I talked about that. Yeah. The history of mass killing, vows of poverty. We didn't get into the actual details of the history on that, but that's a good one for a future stream. Oh, here's one. Here's one that fits right in. Hannah got it. Hannah got the right answer. Nobody else put it in. Thank you, Hannah. You put it in for everybody. Yeah, they wake up thinking about money. Okay. The YouTube executives who have decided to shadow ban me, they wake up thinking about money. Yeah. Not a hard one. Not too hard. But thank you, Hannah, for getting it right. Yeah. Nobody knows about this one. Yeah. After blocking the fuel, the U.S. turns to Cuba's food supply. The administration has already cut off Cuba's access to oil. Now it's attempting to starve the Cuban people, targeting the country's capacity to grow, process, and import food unless it buys from U.S. corporations. Now, I haven't looked too much into this, but I know that the U.S. is blockading Cuba, all sorts of hostile military action against a nation that has done nothing to us. But nobody knows. Anna says, Claude told you not to complain about boomers. I mean, that means it's slow vibes. Yeah, I mean, the boomer thing, I mean, it's relevant. It's super relevant. So, yeah, I'm going to get into it. I'll get into it. Why not? What do I have to lose at this point? I'm already shadow banned, right? But this story, I had to get this in here so you guys can see just how bad this is. Nobody knows about the fact that we're basically destroying Cuba economically with a naval blockade. Nobody talks about it. Nobody thinks about it. The thousands of people affected, if not literally dying because they're being starved. I mean, I don't even know the details. We don't know the details, right? But you don't know this is going on because we live in this new age of the U.S. just total disregard by the leadership in the U.S. for any international norms, any international standards. They've just arrived at such a level of, like I said, moral bankruptcy. This is moral bankruptcy, okay? Blocking fuel and food from Cuba. It's moral bankruptcy. I don't know any other way to put it. Anyways, I'm sure I'm already in a lot of trouble. But yeah, since I'm already in a lot of trouble, let's talk about the boomers. The boomers control 70% of Congress and like 80% of the wealth in the United States. The boomers are the ones making the decisions of consequence in the American empire and have been for at least 3 decades. I don't know, 2-3 decades. The boomer generation and its consequences have been a disaster for the American empire. And, just the insane debt. So the point about the boomers, not to get into who did what, but they're on their way out, okay? The boomers are on their way out. They're retiring, they're dying, and eventually there won't be any more boomers left in power. What does that look like? I mean, it's going to happen over the next 10 years. There's going to be the amount of boomers that go from functioning members of society to dependent on elder care and or dead is going to increase exponentially. And they're the ones who have made all the decisions, controlled all the wealth. So if we need a change in leadership, a change in the way things go, maybe that's an opportunity. Again, what is going to happen depends on the decisions we make. So, yeah, that's the story. That's the story on the boomers, and not to get it into too much more detail about that, but a lot of them making the decision for money, for ego, not taking care of not thinking about God, not taking care of the next generation. That's the problem. They're supposed to be the elders. They're supposed to be handing over something better to their children, and they're handing over something way worse, at least on the surface. I don't know. I'm sure there's a lot of good things that the boomers have done. Maybe the boomers helped increase the spiritual revolution that I'm talking about, because a lot of them, turned away from the church that was teaching them these mistranslations. And there's a whole different perspective to everything. I'm sure Ryan can give me his devil's advocate view on it. But on its face, it doesn't look good. It doesn't look good for the boomer legacy. We'll see. We'll see what happens. I'm sure I don't know if I have many boomers who watch me, but like I said, debate me, bro. Tell me in the chat, give me a coherent argument. But most people just dismiss me and, they just get mad in the comment section and say something obnoxious, and then I tell them they're wrong. They just don't come back. Or I've converted some people, or I've had some decent conversations, I think, with a few people who disagree with me. So I welcome it. Yeah, Ryan says, the boomers are the epitome of the American empire. Hannah says they sent their children to die in wars. Yeah, exactly. On the average, there's the verdict's in. It's bad. It's bad. But, the average of any recent generation, the majority of any recent generation is bad. But, like I said, they control all the wealth and power, so their decisions have had the most consequence. And that's kind of the way it works, is that's the way God designed the universe, is when you have great power, you have great responsibility. The boomers were given almost infinite wealth and power, and they're handing over something much worse. And I think it's because, they didn't want to pay for it. They just indebted their children, or they let their government do it, and whatever it is. I mean, there should be a spiritual revolution. There should have been a spiritual revolution. It seemed like they were on course for a spiritual revolution in the 60s and 70s-ish, but then they seemed to make so much money, right? They made too much money. They were able to pay for their family and for their vacations, for their second home, with one income. It was just so good. Wealth was so easy to come by that everybody got obsessed with wealth. The new age became the me age. I mean, my God, I just had a family member tell me that their parents had gurus and they had never been talked to about God in their life. Both of their parents have gurus, which means they're on a regular basis thinking about God, thinking about meditation. I mean, maybe they don't because they didn't tell their child. But they have completely not shared any understanding about God with their own child. And he has, no understanding of God or spirituality. Yeah, I don't want to tell other people's business, but basically there's a ton of people who are, the only switch they have is money, because God is not available to them, because they don't even think God exists, much less make a decision between God and money. Yeah. Ryan says, I have met individual boomers who are good and decent, but they have been the exception. Through entitled ignorance, ruined by the wealth that others brought their sacrifice. Through their sacrifice. Yeah, man. Yeah, history is not going to be kind to the boomers. It's not going to be kind, There's some good thing, there's always good and bad, right? It's not pure bad. Like I said, I think a lot of the new age growth happened under the boomers, and I agree with a lot of the new age things. Jesus taught it 2,000 years ago. We didn't even need that, but then they turned away from the deep truth, right? Connecting it to what Jesus taught, which was take care of people, right? Serve others, not taking care of yourself. So I guess what's so bad about the boomers, they were handed the most powerful empire in the world, the most wealth ever, the most prosperous society ever, and direct personal mystical access to God through alternative understandings of meditation and all these things that came about through the 70s, the 60s, 70s, 80s, and have continued to grow. But what did they do with them? They didn't create a spiritual revolution. They indebted their children, and like Hannah said, they fought wars with their children. They sent their children to fight wars. I mean, yeah. I don't know, man. But yeah, that's it. And like I said, it's an opportunity. I see it as an opportunity. And I bring them up only to show that, this is a big change that's coming. Yeah. All right. What other notes did I have? I thought I had a lot of good notes here. Yeah, flying air travel. Oh, yeah. So I live in a rural Midwestern area. And basically everybody says hi to each other. They acknowledge each other in space. But when you come to the city, people look right past each other. And that's the same attitude of the airline telling me, yeah, go sit in that awful seat back there when there's a good seat right here, but we're not going to tell you, we're not going to let you sit there. Right? And that'll happen, first class. I don't know if you know this, you can go sneak on first class. I don't think they let you do it anymore because they literally make sure. And they told me, they're like, well, people pay a lot of money for these seats. When I tried to sneak on first class, I don't know how many years ago. They're like, you can't sit here because other people paid. And so you can't sit there. Oh, but it's empty. Oh, but they paid and they wouldn't want you. The people who paid, they don't want you sitting there for free. Can you look at me with a straight face and say that's right? Can you look at someone with a straight face and say that what you do is moral, is right? You're doing the right thing at your job for this corporation? And if the answer is no, I think that you got to choose God over money. That's the truth of it. And it all comes together when you understand that we are spiritual beings. We reincarnate. All the evidence, most of the afterlife evidence, the best evidence comes from the reincarnation evidence. So this is the big picture stuff. Understanding our spiritual life, we're here for this exact lesson. Can we choose love, choose service, or will we let earth and our physical bodies and instincts override our higher instincts and choose money, choose fear? Right? That's the question. This will be my background when I guess I could switch out to the big picture. I think we got another chat though. Timothy says, present. Thank you, Timothy. You need to stay in your assigned seats in order to balance the plane, of course. Is that real, Ryan? I can't tell if you're joking with me or not sometimes, Ryan. Okay, even if that's true, if they cared about the people on the plane more than money, they would use their computer to balance the plane and put people in the good seats. It's pretty obvious. It's funny because the right thing to do is usually really obvious. And I think we all walk past it. I know that happened to me. I saw somebody begging for money, and I see somebody begging for money so rarely. And even if you see them regularly, I feel like it's my obligation as somebody who has enough money to give them money. And I didn't do it, and I thought about it for like hours afterwards. I'm still thinking about it days later. Like, I really should have. And how many opportunities like that do we walk right past to help someone? That's what you should be asking yourself. I like to keep you guessing. Yeah, nice. Yeah, that's good. I respect that. I respect that, sir. Oh, my goodness. Where was I? Great cousin decline. Customer service. Yeah. I'll do it for money. What if I pull that up? Will they copyright me? I probably should. I just not even do it. I've already got enough issues. They're going to come after me. Go look it up. After this stream, you can go look up the clip. I'll do it for money. What I love about my work is that everything becomes clearer. As I do more research, as I do more reading, as I dig deeper into all these different topics, everything becomes more clear, more obvious. Jesus was right. They were lying about what Jesus taught. It's more obvious every single day that I look at it. And it all lines up with all the same, afterlife stuff I've been studying, the way that everything works perfectly when you understand orienting towards God and trusting God and the universe, which is God. The universe is a creation of God, and so it works with God. People say the universe. You can say that. Letting the universe do it and understanding if you're going to do that, right? People think, oh, the universe is going to bring me this thing. No, now you're thinking about your ego. You're thinking about your selfish self. No, what does God and your highest self want, right? They want you to serve the world to share your gifts and your talents, your truth. Share yourself. That's what I'm doing here. I'm not afraid. Share what you are with the world, and that is how we transform the world. That's in the Tao Te Ching. Let's pull it up. Oh, I think it's actually the Wahoo Ching. Yeah. Wahoo Ching. And I put this in one of my videos. What, I can't type? What's going on here? Oh my goodness. Okay. I don't know why I can't type. It's always something weird, right, guys? Okay, let's try reloading the page. Nope, not gonna work. That is weird. Am I getting hacked? Am I hacked? What the hell? Oh my goodness. Let's do it like that. There we go. What in the heck? This is not it either. Transformation. Self. Oh, it won't let me type. Well, this is embarrassing. Good thing only my friends are watching at this point. All right. I'm going to find it. I'm not going to let the hackers stop me. I know I'm not hacked. I don't know what this is though. Why can't I type something in? I just want to find something on the page. You see this? I type and it disappears. Isn't that weird? Madness. All right. Clairvoyant memories. What if I do it on another? I'm just gonna have to tell you from my memory. Okay, I can type here, but I can't type there? That is really weird, man. All right, I've spent enough time looking at this. Sorry, guys. All right, so anyways, the quote is something like this, okay? Truly, the greatest gift you have to give the world is your own self-transformation. Okay? If men and women were to accord themselves with God, the world would be transformed in its own rhythms. And I think that's actually in the Tao Te Ching. Maybe I can find it here. Is that why it wouldn't let me do it? No. This works. The great way is easy, yet people prefer the side paths. Be aware when things are out of balance. Stay centered within the Tao. The Tao is God. When rich speculators prosper, while farmers lose their land, when government officials spend money on weapons instead of cures, when the upper class is extravagant and irresponsible, while the poor have nowhere to turn, All of this is robbery and chaos. It is not in keeping with the Tao. Exactly. Man, I really want to find that quote about the self-transformation, but it won't let me do it. All right, there's only so much you can do in one live stream. Dad speak caveman. Yeah. Ryan, funny. If you drive to Springfield ever, you will see people begging for money. However, money is not what they need, nor is gaining money actually helping them. Of course, if prompted, definitely give, but call me heartless or whatever, but money is not a beneficial thing to give people sitting on corners with signs asking for help. Yeah, I mean, you might be right. I feel like, I don't know, if I were in their position, when someone stops to give me money, it's an affirmation of humanity, you know? And so while the money itself might not be the right thing, I feel like if it's given with the right energy, then it's going to be a benefit, right? Maybe just like saying hi to them or saying, I'm sorry you're in this position or something, you know, some positive human interaction. If you're able to do it, you should probably do it. I guess that's the way I thought about it. But this is the kind of thing I think we should be thinking about, not how do I make more money tomorrow, right? Not how do I optimize my money thing and get more people to watch my thing and give me money for it. I mean, you know, it's just like the current state of affairs is so gross to me. It's so disgusting to like look at what most people are doing with their time and energy. It's just sad, man. It's just sad. So, well, let me do it. You know, technical problems always like get me all. I'm like, how do I fix it? I need to fix it because I'm pretty good at tech stuff, but now's not the time when you're live on the channel. All right. Hannah says, money gives temporary relief, but does not nourish the mind, body, or spirit. Yeah. I mean, you know, money has its place. Okay. I'm not going to tell people to like give away all their money or never touch money. I think there's people who do that and they're letting money run their life in a different way by like shunning money and trying to get rid of it out of their life. They actually are still controlled by money. No, just take the right attitude about money, put it in its rightful place and trust God. And if you have doubt, ask God for the money that you think you need. If it's reasonable, you'll see it happen. You know, God will show you, look, I got you taken care of. You don't have to spend all this time and energy wasted focused on money. You can focus that where you're supposed to, which is your unique spirit here on earth. You have this one life opportunity to share your gifts. And now's your chance right now. Ryan says, if you were in their position, you would be proactively working to improve your condition. Well, not necessarily, because that, you know, plenty of people making bad decisions. You know, this is also in the Tao Te Ching. What is a bad man but a good man's job? What is a good man but a bad man's teacher? If you don't understand this, you will be lost. It is the great secret. So people who are making bad choices, this is our job to help them, to come into their life and show them the right thing. And there's different ways. Everybody has a different talent and way to do this, right? I think that this is what I'm supposed to be doing it this way because I have a certain set of talents, you know, the scientific mind, the ability to research things and to synthesize them. I feel like my job is to share things in like an online like this or through books or whatever. Other people might be more talented at giving physical help every day or whatever it might be. So, I don't think that we're supposed to, seek out every single bum in the city and give them money. But if God presents someone who appears to need our help into our path, let's give them the benefit of the doubt. Let's treat them like they are Jesus himself, and offer him the meal or the care, whatever it is. Maybe it's not money. I'm not going to argue with you there. But we can't judge them for not already fixing it, right? I guess that's my reaction to what you said. Yeah. All right, what else we got here? Yeah, I think I covered that. Yeah, it's time for a spiritual revolution. What are we holding on to? Yeah. Oh, the 90s songs. My wife pointed, we were listening to some more 90s nostalgia because it's nostalgia time. You're vacationing, traveling through our hometown. And all the 90s songs have internal lyrics. They're lyrics about internal states, whether they're complaining or angsty or whatever. The lyrics are about something meaningful. And current music is about like party, money, bitches, blah. Like it's about external fantasies, basically. And so that was a really interesting observation. And again, a sign of the moral bankruptcy when the mainstream music has lost any connection to anything meaningful. Yeah, so the same empire that's collapsing, that's in charge of collapsing the US dollar and the US empire is the same empire that fucked up the Bible for the last 1,700 years that nobody knows about, right? It's still in the King James. It's definitely in the Vulgate, in the Latin Bible. And yeah, it hasn't been corrected. It hasn't been corrected. That's why I got to write a book about it. But it's the same empire, the same one burning through our oil reserves, burning through all of our supposed defenses, right? That's what they're supposed to be, defenses, but Trump changed it to the Department of War. It used to be Department of Defense. Now it's the Department of War. Great idea. Great idea. Change it from defense to war. It's great. Yeah. All right, folks. I think that's all I've got for today. I'm shadow banned. That's okay. We had a good stream. We had a good discussion. If you guys have anything else to say, definitely put it in the chat now because I will be closing out soon. Let's see. What do I got? I got more pretty pictures for you. It's a fun one. Kids climbing in the redwoods. The Forbidden Bay. The Sea Cave. And another sunset. Hannah, thank you for joining and for all your comments. Ryan, also, thank you so much for joining and putting chats. It's great to chat with you guys. I hope that you learned something. Yeah, tell me what you think. I guess I'll ask you when I see you in person, but you must appreciate the streams because you stayed for the whole thing. I think it's important stuff. Lord knows how many views we'd get if it was showing up in the feed. But that's all right. We'll figure out other ways to get this message out there. And like I said, if all 4 of us or 5 of us who are here right now decided to change it, it would change dramatically. And that is my belief and my promise to you. So I'm Danny with The Way of Service. I'm here every Tuesday at 7 p.m. A little on and off over the next couple weeks. Like I said, I'm on vacation. I'm headed to the International Association for Near-Death Studies conference in Seattle at the end of August. So that's going to be really exciting. I'm hoping to maybe make some good connections at that conference. for the way of service and for the future of the work. That's my plan. And yeah, just over here trying to do God's work every day, guys. And I love you guys, and I will see you guys next time.